Rwanda ranks 80th on the current Global Competitiveness Index of the World Economic Forum. It's beating all its counterparts within the East African community, done really well as a first entrant and as an African entrant. Why is Rwanda faring so well?
Well, the way the Global Competitive Index has been structured seems to have favored them a bit. However, they've also put in a lot of effort in terms of economic management or reforms, or even in the areas of in legal areas or investment. They've really taken care of the nitty-gritty, and it seems to be paying off.
All right, now they haven't just done well in terms of the Global Competitiveness Index, but the World Bank also rates them as the top reformer in the 2010 Doing Business report. Let's talk about some of the reforms that have been instituted in Rwanda. The one most relevant for business is the new companies law. Can you just talk to us about the vision that they've taken on in terms of business development in Rwanda?
Well, everybody knows that for you to develop a country, you've got to be looking to your private sector. So in recognition of that, they're trying to facilitate the private sector as much as possible, trying to make business sufficiently easy for them, give them the space for operations and what have you. And that seems to have been working out well for them. Of course, the various laws that they've been looking at, trying to reform them, trying to bring them up to speed so that the ease of doing business is enhanced, and ultimately when that happens, capital usually follows, where it's treated best. Of course, you also have to recognize that they're also starting from a lower base as compared to, say, a country like Kenya.
Right.
So that seems to work out well for them. But ultimately, they've got their head on straight. They're looking to the private sector for growth and development, and they're just trying to facilitate that so that they can improve as an economy.
We also know that some of the reforms they've introduced are in the area of intellectual property, and they've really supported the idea of innovations, which we've seen in the ICT sector. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, again, it goes back to protecting investment. And like I've said earlier, private sector is driven a lot by, is largely driven by investment, and not to guarantee returns, but to protect investors' capital and their property is a very big important factor when you're talking about economic growth. And everybody will want to invest where their capital is treated well, so that their returns can be, there's very little risk when it comes to variance of returns. So if IP has been a very contentious issue in globally, I would suppose, and they've just recognized that, and especially in ICT, where a lot of the intellectual property is, intellectual property is not that it's not well defined, but it could be controversial. However, you also want to protect that because ideas drive investment. So if ideas are not protected, people will be not very willing to invest in such an environment. And once you've got your people being, your investors' ideas being protected, then you're putting them on sound footing for further investment.
Let's move beyond that, because not all is well regarding Rwanda. Just compared to larger members of the East African community, for instance, Rwanda is lagging behind in the area of attracting foreign direct investment, only attracting $119 million in the last year, whereas Uganda is seeing FDI flows increase and improve by 27%. So there is a bit of wariness concerning Rwanda. Is it wariness, am I right to use that term, or is it better opportunities in Kenya and Uganda?
Well, first of all, with the case of Uganda, Uganda is very interesting because you have to go to look at who invests in Uganda, first of all, and you'll find a big proportion of that is Kenya. Rwanda being further from Kenya will probably be next to receive. So and even again you have to compare the sizes of the two economies, right? So that you compare how much Rwanda is receiving vis-a-vis the size. I mean, how much can it actually absorb as a country, vis-a-vis what Uganda is receiving and how much it can absorb as a country, and even then, while all that could be taken into account, you would be right to suggest that some people might be looking twice at Rwanda, or some people will probably take a wait and see attitude, given the elections and the issues that came up and what went on in South Africa, and ultimately it may not show up now, but people want to, you know, I mean, if you look at Putin in Russia, his means and methods of governance has kept some investors away.
Right.
It could be the case that Rwanda will be heading in the same direction, but let's have I prefer to take a wait and see attitude.
Okay, let's ask our guest host Nyagaka on this particular one. Controversial elections in Rwanda, but nonetheless, President Kagame got over a 90% endorsement in this election. And many people say because of the economic reforms he's introduced, because of his vision for a knowledge-based economy, because of investments in areas like ICT, and this is in many ways an international community investor electorate reward for visionary leadership.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's interesting. You know, you brought up earlier the analogy of, I thought I saw on your screens, the Africa-Singapore, and you know, the analogy or the parallels between Singapore and Rwanda are fairly interesting from a political perspective. When you look at what Singapore and Hong Kong, though, have been able to do that Rwanda still has to get right is Hong Kong and Singapore, and Hong Kong maybe to begin with, is actually seen as the gateway into the larger Chinese hinterland. You know, Singapore is seen as a gateway into Malaysia and to wider Asia as well. What Rwanda really needs to get right is to encase itself and to position itself as a gateway to the larger East African community, 80 to 90 million people market. And I think that's still to be done.
Okay, in terms of strategies for growth going forward, Johnson, we do know that despite a very torrid history with the genocide and civil war, they've really and truly escaped that past, Rwanda, to become one of the 3 top economies within East Africa, and also to create an incredible manufacturing base for a country with the history that it has done. So what could Rwanda be doing better?
Well, I know they've got a lot of focus on human resource, because ultimately when it comes to economic performance, it's really more about the people more than anything else. So, another thing that Kagame has done is that he's brought in a lot of human resources from his neighboring countries, up to and including Kenya, who are helping him start up and drive his economy. So if the productivity of his people is enhanced through bringing in of expatriates and other experts from elsewhere, then they're able to drive the economy at a much faster pace. Because if you really think about it, if you look at an economy like a car driving through a road, right? The speed at which the car moves forward will be dependent upon the driver, which is a human resource, the car, which is capital, the road, which is the infrastructure, and ultimately the regulations involved. Are they restrictive, and the nature of the regulations will also affect the speed of movement in the economy. Now, I think in some cases you'll find that a country like Rwanda has less restrictions than Kenya. So in that regard, they're able to move faster because they've got the liberty to do so. Unlike Kenya, where you've got quite a bit of regulations to live up to, you know.